Hey everyone, we're back, and I wanted to talk a little bit today about struggling with the fear of competing. You know, jiu-jitsu, a lot of people get involved with jiu-jitsu for different reasons, and I think competing is one of the most valuable things you can take away from doing jiu-jitsu. But I think fear is one of the biggest things that keeps people either away from competing or performing to their ability. So I wanted to kind of run through a couple things that I like to do for myself or with my students that are experiencing a lot of fear before competition. I think the first thing that you want to do that's really important is identifying that you're feeling that you're scared. And I think it's a normal thing to experience some sort of fear during competition. Again, there's like so many different things you could be feeling going into that competition, and just identifying what the issue is to start is going to be a big part of fixing that problem before it starts consuming you. Like I'm a really big advocate that thinking of like trying to hold on to that fear and stuff like that is only going to get worse the longer you do it. So I think the first thing is identifying it, and then the second thing is understanding that you're not alone. Okay, so because a lot of people go out to compete and they think they're the only one that's scared, you know what I mean? But it's very common for people to experience fear on some level when they're going out to compete. Again, it's a lot more intense than a regular practice. There's a lot more variables that you're dealing with. You might be heavily emotionally invested in how you compete. So understanding that you're not the only person feeling that way sometimes helps lighten the load a bit, so it's not as overwhelming when you know that it's not just you that's feeling fear, it's also your opponent. Okay, it's quite normal to have some sense of fear going into a match. So it's just like recognizing that it's there and it's not just you that's feeling that. I think the other thing that's really important, and I don't think enough athletes do this, is talking about that fear with your coach. I think it's important that we identify the fear, and a lot of the time the things we're experiencing fear about are unjustified, you know what I mean? And sometimes we just got to let it out and say it. And then once we kind of say what we're feeling that's causing that fear in our mind, it dispels it, you know? Because a lot of the time it's like, it's a fantasy we're creating in our head, what we're fearing before we go into competition. So sometimes it's like, you know, a fear of getting hurt. Maybe you got hurt previously in competition, so you're scared of getting hurt again. It could be just fear of losing the respect of your team, losing the respect of your coach. So many different avenues, so many different things can pop up in your mind when you go out to compete. So it's good to identify what it is and then talk about it with your coach. You know, like I've been very fortunate to spend a lot of time with professional athletes, coaching professional athletes, and having that open communication with them, establishing that trust early on, especially when it comes time to compete, is really important. Because a lot of times it's just a short conversation. We get your head back on straight, and then you're going to go in much more confidence, because confidence is going to take you really far. I think the next skill, and it's like something you actively kind of need to practice, is making an effort to learn some meditation. Meditation is a great way to kind of get in touch with what you're feeling, especially when you're feeling overwhelmed. And I think it's very common for athletes to feel overwhelmed when it comes to competing. There's so much to think about, so much to worry about, and it's very easy for athletes to get overwhelmed going into competition. So again, if you can learn to pause, slow down, get in touch with what you're feeling, and take that time to kind of organize it so you can kind of stay in a relaxed state leading up to the time to compete, I think that's a really healthy thing you can do. Again, I don't want to be like totally zenned out right before I compete. I like to kind of have this kind of happy medium where I'm not like ramped up super high or I'm too low. I need to be ready, because again, it's like part of competing is being in this like active state of readiness. You need to be prepared for anything that your opponent's going to do. Some people come out really fast, so you don't want to go in sleepy. You know what I mean? You don't want to go in so mellow that you're not prepared, because again, like once that match goes, it's on, and you got to go. So, but I think meditation's a really powerful tool, because I've seen so many athletes let the nerves just kind of eat them alive before they compete. I've fallen victim to this too, where it's like I was so nervous before my first match. I would go, and then I would use too much strength, too much energy in that first match, and then I'd be completely depleted for my second or third match. And remember, jiu-jitsu, for the most part, is always tournament format. Nowadays, we see super fights and stuff. But I think being prepared to be ready for multiple matches and to conserve your energy is a really big skill you need to develop. And I think a lot of the times it's our nerves. Like I think a lot of athletes let their nerves get the best of them. They use too much energy in that first match, and then they can't make it into the later rounds. So I think meditation's a really big tool. A lot of athletes can utilize, as well as visualization. Again, I think that like the kind of last one is really focusing on visualization. Focusing on your technique is a really important skill you want to develop while practicing jiu-jitsu. And especially when you're competing. I think the times I performed best is when I was very focused on my technique, very focused on my game plan, what I was going to do, and how I was going to address my strategy in each match. I'm someone that doesn't like to watch people in my division compete. I'm someone that I go to my coach and get advice. They help set my mindset, and then I just go out there and perform to the best of my ability. I think a big part of competing is learning to enjoy the process. So not being too overly focused on winning and losing is going to be one of the biggest things you can take away from competing. And I think overall, the biggest benefits of competing are just like short-term growth. You're gonna grow the most competing in jiu-jitsu. And it's something I always really encourage my students to do. You got to think like in an average academy, like probably about 10% of the students compete, if even that. So it's really special when you get the ones that are really involved and want to get the most out of the experience of jiu-jitsu. So I think it's really important that you make that effort to compete, you get on the mat, you get the full benefit of what jiu-jitsu is trying to offer you. And you know, you'll reap the benefits, you'll reap the rewards. Your jiu-jitsu will always be better than a lot of the athletes that choose not to compete. You're just going to understand it better. You're going to grow a lot. So it's not always about, and just honestly, and especially in jiu-jitsu too, having short-term goals makes the process so much more enjoyable. If I'm focusing on a tournament every 3 months opposed to just chasing my blue belt or my black belt or whatever belt I'm chasing, I think it makes the process a lot easier and enjoyable. So learn to enjoy the process of competing. Try not to put too heavy expectations on one event, one match, all that stuff. It doesn't matter in the long term. As long as you're actively competing, you stay with it, you're always going to be getting better. You're always going to be improving. And again, you'll be getting the benefits of competing. So learn to enjoy the process, focus less on winning and losing. Try to follow those 5 steps you can do to kind of dispel some of your fears that you might be experiencing. And it's going to help you get the most out of being a competitor in jiu-jitsu. And yeah, anyways, I hope you guys found this insightful. If you have questions about anything I said, you want me to go more in depth on anything that I'm touching on, feel free to leave me comments. If you want to continue to see videos like this, make sure to like and subscribe to my channel. Thank you all for watching.